Something important just happened quietly, and many people did not notice because they were distracted by loud arguments and breaking news. While everyone was watching the main figures, a hidden truth was sitting right there in the documents. The identity of the secret co-conspirator was not hidden by mystery. It was hidden because people did not expect it. It was hidden because the person felt familiar, trusted, and normal. What we are seeing now is not a sudden discovery. It is the moment when the system finally stopped protecting someone that no longer needed. For years, the public was given a very simple story. There was one main person at the center of everything. One loud figure, one face to blame. That story made people feel calm because it suggested that removing one person would fix everything, but real power never works like that. Big decisions are never made by one person alone. They are made through groups, advisors, and quiet agreements. When legal documents use the term co-conspirator, they are talking about someone who helped make things happen, not someone standing on the sidelines. The reason this identity matters is not because of drama or gossip. It matters because it shows how the system truly works behind closed doors. The files that were released show patterns that repeat again and again. They show meetings that happened at the right times, messages that were carefully worded, actions that followed clear plans. This was not random behavior. It was organized, it was controlled, and it was done by someone who knew how to stay out of the spotlight. This co-conspirator was not someone who shouted in public or made angry speeches. They were someone who spoke calmly, someone who sounded reasonable, someone who was often described as responsible and professional. That image was not accidental. It was protection. Their job was not to lead crowds, but to guide decisions quietly. They helped decide what could be done, how far things could go, and how much risk was acceptable. One of the most telling things in the files is how this person appears at key moments and then disappears. Right before big decisions, they are present. Right after those decisions, they are gone. This pattern happens too often to be chance. It shows influence without fingerprints. They did not need to give direct orders. Their presence alone shaped what others felt safe doing. Publicly, this person talked about law, order, and stability. Privately, they talked about pressure, leverage, and outcomes. They helped turn risky actions into something that sounded legal. They helped shape language so it could survive legal checks and public attention. This is how powerful systems protect themselves. They do not break rules loudly. They bend them quietly. The files also show how others treated this person. People waited for their opinion. They adjusted plans based on subtle signals. Even when no clear instruction was given, their role was understood. This is a common feature of real power. It does not need to shout. It does not need titles, and it works through expectation and habit. Many people are asking why this name was not revealed earlier. The answer is uncomfortable but simple. Revealing it earlier would have caused too much disruption. Institutions move slowly because they are designed to protect stability first, not truth. As long as this person was useful, as long as they helped keep things under control, they were protected. But usefulness does not last forever. At some point, the cost of protection becomes higher than the cost of exposure. That is what changed. The system decided that keeping this person hidden was now more dangerous than letting the truth come out. This is not about sudden honesty. It is about changed priorities. This moment also challenges how people think about wrongdoing. We are used to looking for angry faces and extreme behavior. But the most damaging actions often come from calm people using polite words. The files show that the real danger was not emotion. Planning, it was a process, it was knowing how to move inside the system without setting off alarms. As the identity of the co-conspirator becomes more widely discussed, there will be many attempts to change the focus. People will argue about technical details. They will say the actions were misunderstood. They will claim there was no bad intent, but those arguments miss the point. The issue is not one action or one rule. The issue is a system that allowed power to operate without responsibility for a very long time. This is not the end of the story. In many ways, it is just the beginning. When one hidden figure is exposed, attention naturally turns to others. Power does not work alone, it works in networks. And once people start looking at the structure instead of the spectacle, more connections begin to appear. What comes next will be even more revealing, because it forces us to ask not just who was involved, but how many more were quietly standing nearby, waiting their turn. And that is where this story becomes bigger than one name or one set of files. Once the identity of a secret co-conspirator comes into view, it changes how everything before it is understood. Actions that once seemed confusing now make sense. Delays that felt strange now look intentional. Silence that was explained as caution now looks like coordination. The files do not just point to one person. They reveal a method. They show how power protects itself by spreading responsibility so thin that no single hand appears to be holding the wheel. What is most disturbing is how normal this process is. There is no secret room with dramatic lighting, and there are no movie-style villains. Instead, there are meetings, emails, phone calls, and careful wording. The co-conspirator operated in spaces where decisions are framed as advice, not orders. Where influence is applied through suggestion, not command. This makes accountability extremely difficult, because everything can later be described as opinion, concern, or routine discussion. The files show that this person understood the system better than almost anyone else. They knew which lines could not be crossed and which lines could be stretched. They knew when to slow things down and when to quietly encourage movement. Most importantly, they knew how to let others take visible risks while they remained protected. This is how powerful figures survive storms that destroy everyone else. For ordinary people watching this unfold, it is easy to feel distant from it all. These are elites after all, high-level politics, legal language, big institutions, but the effects never stay at the top. When trust in systems breaks down, the damage flows downward. Markets react, jobs become unstable, laws are enforced unevenly, and people who follow the rules begin to feel foolish for doing so. There is also a deeper lesson here about accountability. The system is very good at punishing loud mistakes. It is much worse at addressing to quiet design. When someone builds a process that allows harm without direct action, responsibility becomes blurred. The files force us to confront that uncomfortable truth. They show that some of the most powerful actions are taken without signatures, without speeches, and without public fingerprints. As attention grows, pressure will build for consequences. But consequences in systems like this rarely look dramatic. They look like distancing, and they look like resignations framed as personal choices. They look like quiet exits and rewritten histories. Rarely do they look like justice in the way people expect. That gap between expectation and reality is where frustration grows. The biggest risk now is that the story stops too early, that people accept one name as the answer and move on. That would be a mistake. The files make it clear that this co-conspirator did not act alone. They acted within an environment that rewarded caution over courage and stability over truth. If that environment remains unchanged, new figures will step into the same role. This is why the coming phase matters more than the revelation itself. What happens after exposure tells you whether a system is capable of learning or only capable of replacing parts. Watch what reforms are proposed. Watch which questions are avoided, watch who is allowed to speak and who is quietly sidelined. Those signals will reveal whether this moment leads to real change or simply a reset. The story began with a hidden name, but it ends with a public choice. Either attention fades and the structure remains, or the focus stays sharp and the structure is challenged. That choice does not belong only to prosecutors or politicians. It belongs to the audience, to voters, to citizens who decide whether comfort is more important than clarity. And that decision will shape not just the next chapter of this case, but the future pattern of how power behaves when it thinks no one is watching. At the end, share your thoughts about it and subscribe our channel to continue your journey with us. Thanks